AITA for disappearing completely after my cheating wife demanded half of everything in the divorce. I, a 37-year-old, have been married to my wife Brianna, a 29-year-old, for 9 years. We met at a film industry networking event in Dallas, where I was sponsoring a local independent film through my aerospace engineering company. She worked as an extras coordinator. She had that way of making everyone feel like the most important person in the room. We got married within a year. Everything seemed solid. I earned about $310,000 a year as a senior aerospace engineer, designing propulsion systems for commercial spacecraft. Yes, actual rocket science. Brianna worked as what she called a working actress, claiming she made about $80,000 a year between commercials and background work, though I never saw proof of that. She loved to mention that she had done a toothpaste commercial when she was 5, as if that made her Hollywood royalty. When we got married, I suggested a prenuptial agreement. It made sense considering my salary and the assets I had built before meeting her. She cried for 3 hours straight. She said I was calling her a gold digger, that I did not trust her, and that marriage was about partnership rather than protection. Her mother called me selfish. Her father shot me a look of disappointment, as if I had insulted his daughter's honor. I caved. I signed the marriage license without any protection. The biggest mistake of my life. The first few years were decent. We bought a house in a gated community north of Houston. Brianna decorated it as if we lived in a celebrity home. When I suggested we could find similar things cheaper, she looked at me as if I had proposed living in a cardboard box. She said she had an image to maintain for auditions and industry events. Her industry connections were the only thing that mattered to her. Weekly brunches with women who spent more on handbags than most people spend on cars. Monthly spa days that cost $500 each. Constant shopping trips where she would come home with bags from stores I had never heard of. Every item costing hundreds. Everything charged to our joint credit card. When I asked her to contribute more since she was spending more, she reminded me that marriage meant sharing everything. Her money was her money. My money was our money. Yet somehow, her paycheck always seemed to disappear before reaching our account. Around the 4th year, things changed drastically. Brianna started working late constantly. She said the film industry was competitive and she needed to do more networking to land bigger roles. She would come home at midnight smelling like expensive restaurants. When I asked about her day, she gave vague answers about auditions and meetings with casting directors. Her phone became a permanent extension of her hand. She smiled at messages she never let me see, turning the screen away whenever I was nearby. Our intimate life went from normal to practically non-existent. It happened maybe once a month if I was lucky, and even then she acted like she was doing me a favor. When I brought it up, she sighed as if I were being unreasonable. She said she was tired from auditions, stressed about getting better roles, and frustrated because I did not appreciate how hard she worked. Somehow, everything became my fault. I handled it by burying myself in work. 6 months ago, everything escalated. I started noticing charges on our credit card that did not add up. A boutique hotel in downtown Houston, multiple charges on different weekends, high-end restaurants in the same area, exclusive venues, and trendy spots. These were places you do not go alone. When I asked, Brianna had explanations ready. She said sometimes casting directors wanted to meet in hotel common areas for privacy. She said she networked at expensive restaurants because that is how industry connections are made. She even showed me articles about how acting requires constantly building relationships, making me feel stupid for questioning her. Something did not fit. I kept quiet and started paying closer attention. 3 months ago, Brianna told me she had a night audition scheduled. She claimed some producer from Los Angeles needed to meet local talent early Saturday morning. By then it was a standard story, but this time I decided to check something. Years ago, we had installed a family tracking app after Brianna's car broke down on the highway, and she could not tell me exactly where she was. It was just for safety. She had forgotten about it completely. I sat there, feeling like I had been punched in the stomach. 9 years of marriage. All the money I had spent on her lifestyle. I did not confront her. Instead, I took photos of them together. I wrote down his license plate number. I went home and acted normal when Brianna returned that afternoon, exaggerating how tired she was from her early audition. That week I did some digging. I found out the guy's name was Grant. He was her college ex-boyfriend. They dated for 3 years before she ended the relationship to focus on her career. I found his social media. There were photos of him at the gym, in clubs, on boats, living that influencer lifestyle. Despite claiming to be a personal trainer and fitness model, Brianna had liked or commented on dozens of his posts for almost a year. Things like fire emojis, comments on how good he looked, and inside jokes I did not understand. I documented everything over the next week. I took some personal days at work and followed him. I sat in parking lots with a camera, tracked his movements, and recorded everything. I had photos of Brianna and Grant in restaurants, videos of them checking into hotels together, and timestamps showing arrivals and departures. In a week, I had everything I needed. I met with a lawyer. She was not a standard divorce lawyer, but a specialist in high-net-worth cases where one spouse needs protection. She had been practicing for 25 years. She confirmed what I already knew. Brianna was entitled to half of everything. Evidence of infidelity might make her look bad, but it would not change the numbers much. Texas law is Texas law. I asked her what my options were. She asked me how attached I was to staying in Houston. Not much, I said. Why? Because if you are willing to be creative, there are ways to protect assets accumulated before the marriage, she said. Legal ways, but they require perfect timing and careful execution. She slid a notepad across the desk. And they work best when you are already gone before she realizes what is happening. I looked at the notepad and started to understand what she meant. I asked how much time I had. As long as she doesn't suspect anything. The moment she thinks you are leaving, this gets complicated. You have to be systematic, methodical, and above all, disappear before filing the lawsuit. I left her office with a plan forming. Around that time, something else happened. An aerospace company based in Brisbane contacted me via LinkedIn. They had been following my work on satellite propulsion systems and wanted to talk about a senior engineering position. The timing felt like the universe was giving me an exit strategy. The offer was legitimate. It paid $220,000 Australian a year, about $150,000 US, leading their satellite division. I would be working on cutting-edge projects, everything I wanted professionally, just on the other side of the world. I had 3 video interviews in 2 weeks. They loved my experience and offered me the position. They said I could start within 3 months if I wanted, giving me time to think about relocation. I told them I would give them an answer soon. I did not mention I was planning a divorce. I just said I needed to resolve some personal matters. First, I started working systematically. I began withdrawing cash from our joint account. Not large amounts that would trigger alerts. Just $500 here, $800 there. I told Brianna I was trying to be more budget conscious by using cash for daily expenses. She did not question it because she never paid attention to our finances beyond spending. In 8 weeks, I accumulated about $4,500 in cash. I kept it in a fireproof safe in my office. I changed my direct deposit to a new account at a completely different bank. I used the address of my old pre-marriage apartment. I told HR it was for security reasons after someone tried to clone my debit card. My next paycheck went straight to that new account. Brianna never noticed because she never really checked the bank. She just spent. My pre-marriage investments and savings needed protection. Through my lawyer's contacts, I worked with financial specialists who handled international asset protection. Through completely legal transfers, I moved about $380,000 to accounts in Switzerland and the Cayman Islands. It was all my pre-marriage money, properly documented for taxes, legitimate protection rather than hiding assets. I sold some stock options that had already vested and deposited the proceeds offshore. I left enough in our joint investment accounts not to raise suspicions. Brianna never looked at those statements. She only cared about credit cards. While going through Brianna's things during prep for the move, I found something interesting in her jewelry box. It was the platinum eternity ring I bought her for our 5th anniversary. It cost me $800 at the time. 3 small diamonds set in the band. Brianna loved showing it off to her friends, telling them it was an heirloom ring from her grandmother, passed down through 3 generations. A total fabrication. I was there when she opened the jewelry box, but she told that story so many times I think she started believing it herself. I looked at the ring for a full minute, then put it in my pocket. I did not plan to sell it or anything. I just wanted to see how she would react when she realized it was gone. I started working longer hours and being home less. Brianna did not notice or care. She was probably already planning her future with Grant, maybe even picking out furniture for the place she planned to buy with my money. I contacted the Brisbane company and accepted the offer. I told them I could start in 6 weeks. They were thrilled. They sent me the employment contract, relocation assistance details, and paperwork for visa sponsorship. I applied for a skilled worker visa using my job offer. Australia's immigration process was straightforward for engineers with an employment contract. In 3 weeks, I had approval. I also did something else. I transferred the title of our house solely to Brianna's name. It sounds crazy, but my lawyer explained it perfectly in our last planning meeting. She keeps the house, she said, pointing to the property documents. $450,000 in equity, right? Correct, I said. And a $2,800 mortgage she cannot pay with her actual income. She will think she won, but she will be trapped with the debt while you walk away clean. She smiled. Meanwhile, you can claim you already gave her a substantial asset in the settlement. Courts love generosity, and she will not be able to claim anything else. Not if you establish residency abroad before filing the suit. Texas courts have limited jurisdiction over non-residents. Everything would be handled remotely through me. You would be untouchable. I signed the transfer papers right there. My lawyer also helped me establish residency in Australia before filing for divorce. Once I legally resided abroad, Texas courts had limited jurisdiction over me. They could not force me to return for proceedings. Everything could be handled remotely through my lawyer. 2 weeks later, Brianna announced she was going to Cancun on a girls' trip with some friends from her acting class. She said they had planned it for months and needed a break. The trip was 5 days, leaving Wednesday and returning Sunday. It cost about $3,000 between flights, resort, and spending money. I paid for it without complaining. It was perfect timing. I checked the family tracking app after she left Wednesday morning. Brianna was not at the airport. She was at Grant's apartment complex across town. She stayed there 2 hours. Then her location showed she was going south, but not toward the airport. She was heading toward Galveston. I tracked her to a beachfront resort. I checked the resort's social media and found Grant's account. He had posted a story about a surprise beach getaway with someone special. The background matched the resort where Brianna's phone was pinging. I spent the next few days documenting her exact location while she sent me photos supposedly from Cancun. Thursday morning, 3 days into Brianna's fake Cancun trip, I packed 2 suitcases with essentials and important documents. I left the house keys on the kitchen counter. Next to them, I placed a folder. Inside were printed copies of all the photos I took, bank statements showing all the charges I paid during her year-long affair, and the divorce papers already filed with the court. I did not write anything emotional, just facts and legal documents. Then I drove to Houston Hobby Airport. I did not take any domestic flights. I flew to Los Angeles and then took a direct flight to Brisbane. 15 hours of flight. Every mile felt like chains falling off me. Before boarding the international flight, my lawyer had Brianna officially served with the divorce papers and evidence. The service would happen Monday morning at our house, right after she returned from her fake vacation. But by then I would be completely unreachable. When I landed in Brisbane, I felt like I could breathe for the first time in years. I took a connecting flight to the Sunshine Coast. I had rented a small house in Mullalulaba, paying a year in advance with offshore funds. The town was perfect. Beach life, friendly people, and far from everything. Brianna returned home Sunday night from Galveston, probably still euphoric from her weekend with Grant. She walked into the house expecting everything to be normal. Instead, she found the folder on the kitchen counter. I know this because she immediately started calling me. 17 missed calls in the first hour. Then the messages started coming. At first, they were confused. What is this? Where are you? Call me right now. Then they became furious when I did not answer. You cannot just leave. This is illegal. My lawyer is going to destroy you. I did not reply to anything. I just watched the messages pile up from my new phone with an Australian number she did not have. Then, apparently, she opened the folder and actually looked at the evidence. The calls became hysterical. Voicemails screaming at me, crying, begging. Please call me. Can we fix this? I made a mistake. Do not do this. She left 23 voicemails in the first 3 days. She tried calling my work and found out I had resigned. There was no forwarding information or way to contact me. She tried my email. I had set up an auto-reply saying I no longer monitored that address, and all future communication should be done through my lawyer. It included the lawyer's contact info, nothing else. By the end of the first week, I checked our joint account online. Brianna had emptied it in 3 days. She took every last cent of those $3,500. She probably thought she was being smart, taking her money before I could. That was all she would ever see from me. Emails addressed to my lawyers started arriving. Brianna's lawyer sent threatening letters demanding I return to Texas for proper proceedings. My lawyer responded calmly each time. I was exercising my right to live abroad and would participate in proceedings remotely. I had already offered a generous settlement, giving Brianna substantial assets, including a house with significant equity. Then, Brianna noticed the ring was missing. It was the anniversary band I bought her. The first email arrived at my lawyer's office. My lawyer forwarded it to me with a note saying, "This should be entertaining." Brianna's message said, "I need to speak to him immediately. He took my grandmother's ring. It is a family heirloom valued at over $5,000. 3 generations of women in my family wore that ring. It is irreplaceable. If he does not return it in 48 hours, I will file theft charges and add it to the divorce proceedings. This is absolutely unacceptable." I had my lawyer send a reply. "Please provide documentation proving the provenance of the ring, insurance records, and any appraisal establishing it as a family heirloom. Also, provide proof of its existence prior to your marriage." 2 hours later, she replied, "I do not need documentation. Everyone knows it was my grandmother's ring. My mother will testify. My sister will testify. He has stolen something priceless from my family, and he knows it. This is psychological abuse. He is trying to hurt me by taking the one thing that mattered most to me." My response through my lawyer was simple. "Interesting. I have a receipt from Tiffany dated September 2019 showing I bought exactly that ring for $800 as a 5th anniversary gift. I also have the original box, the certificate of authenticity, and the credit card statement. Would you like copies?" Absolute silence for 3 days. Then she tried again. "That receipt is fake. He is trying to gaslight me about my own family history. That ring belonged to my grandmother Margaret, who wore it for 40 years before passing it to my mother, who gave it to me on our wedding day. The Tiffany story is a lie he fabricated to avoid theft charges." I had my lawyer reply, "Your wedding was in 2015. The ring in question was purchased in 2019 for your 5th anniversary. Your grandmother Margaret is still alive and residing in Florida according to public records. Would you like me to formally depose her regarding this ring?" That must have hurt because the next email arrived 6 hours later and was considerably more unhinged. "He is destroying my family by dragging my grandmother into this. The ring is irreplaceable regardless of when it was purchased or who bought it. It represents our marriage, our commitment, everything we built together. Taking it from me is cruel and vindictive. I have a right to have it returned immediately. It is my ring. He gave it to me. You cannot just take back gifts because you are angry." My reply was brief. "Correct. I cannot take back gifts, but I can take my own property when I am packing to leave. The ring is in my possession." After that, she completely lost her mind. "You have no right. That ring is mine. My grandmother wore it. My family legacy. You are a thief and a monster. I am going to post this so everyone knows what kind of person you are." My final response through my lawyer was direct. "Please post it. Be sure to include that your grandmother's ring comes from Tiffany in 2019. I am sure your 300 wedding guests will have interesting questions about why no one saw that priceless heirloom at your 2015 ceremony. Also, feel free to file theft charges. I would love to present my receipt in court while you explain under oath how your grandmother, who is still alive, passed her ring to you before dying." She stayed silent on the ring issue for about a week and then apparently decided to follow my advice and post. She uploaded a long, dramatic post on social media about how her ex-husband had stolen her grandmother's priceless heirloom during the divorce. She claimed it was worth over $5,000 and had been in her family for 3 generations. She called me a thief and a monster who had violated everything decent. Within hours, people who had been at our wedding started commenting, "Wait, didn't you say that ring was new at your anniversary party?" Another commented, "Didn't you post photos when you received that ring in 2019 saying it was an anniversary gift?" Someone else added, "Your grandmother lives in Boca Raton. I saw her last month. She is definitely not dead." Brianna deleted the post within 4 hours, but screenshots had already circulated. She made herself look completely unstable to everyone who mattered. Through social media and mutual acquaintances, From Australia, I watched what was happening with Grant. It turned out Grant's fitness influencer career depended heavily on corporate sponsors, supplement companies, gym equipment brands, and sportswear. Once Brianna's affair became public and all the evidence somehow leaked onto the internet, his sponsors started distancing themselves. No one wants their protein associated with a guy who destroyed a marriage. Grant lost 3 major sponsorship contracts in a month. His social media engagement dropped because people started calling him out in the comments. His personal training clients at a high-end gym left because their wives did not want them working with someone known for inappropriate relationships with married women. The gym finally fired him to avoid the drama. Turns out being the other man is not good for business when your business depends on image. Brianna tried to contact Grant for support during the divorce. He left her on read completely. He blocked her number, blocked her on social media, and disappeared. Without my money funding her lifestyle, and without his income from sponsors, Grant wanted nothing to do with her. He had been using her just as much as she had been using me. The divorce dragged on for months. Brianna's lawyers tried everything. They filed motions claiming I had committed fraud. They demanded international asset searches. They tried to freeze my offshore accounts. My lawyer shut down every attempt. My offshore funds were legitimate premarital assets, with paper trails proving their origin. Through social media and mutual contacts I monitored from Australia, I watched Brianna's acting career collapse completely. Finally, Brianna had to face reality. She signed the agreement 9 months after I left. She kept the house and its mortgage, the money from the joint account she had already withdrawn, and her car. Total value, about $2,400 after debts. Everything else I kept, my offshore accounts, my new income in Australia, my stock options that vested after separation, and my premarital retirement accounts. My lawyer emailed me the final decree. I was officially free. Through social media monitoring and public record searches, I started piecing together more of Brianna's situation. She could not afford the house. Her income as an actress came nowhere close to what she had claimed during the marriage. It turned out she did maybe 3 or 4 background jobs a year, earning closer to $1,500 annually. That childhood commercial was 24 years old. She had been living completely off my salary. Without my income, she could not pay the mortgage. The house went into foreclosure in less than 8 months. Public records showed Brianna had to move into a 1-bedroom apartment in a mediocre part of town. Her designer furniture did not fit. Liquidation sale sites showed she sold most of it for pennies on the dollar. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I received a Facebook message from Brianna's younger sister, Savannah. We had always gotten along well. She wanted to apologize for her family's initial reaction. She said she always suspected there was more to the story than what Brianna had told them. Brianna had to move back in with her parents in Austin, into her childhood bedroom, at 30 years old. Her parents were not happy. Her mother, who had been so understanding at first, was less supportive when she learned the whole truth. What remained of Grant's reputation disintegrated. His social media became unusable due to harassment. He deleted all his accounts and apparently moved to another state. Some said Arizona, others Nevada. In any case, it was over for him in Houston. His influencer lifestyle collapsed completely. Brianna saw those posts and realized that Grant had been using her specifically because she had access to my money. She realized he had never loved her and that she had thrown away her marriage for someone who saw her as an income source. According to Savannah, Brianna spent days crying about it. The actress who had played so many roles could not handle the reality of her own life. Brianna's parents finally understood that their daughter was responsible for her own situation. Her father told her directly. She made her choices, and now she had to live with them. That talk apparently did not go well. Brianna screamed that they were supposed to support her no matter what. Her father replied that supporting does not mean feeding delusions. The ring is in my desk drawer in Australia. Sometimes I look at it, not because I want it, but because I know Brianna thinks about it constantly. She knows she lost something she valued because of her own decisions. That is worth more than any amount of money. Life in Australia has been exactly what I needed. Since I do not speak to my family for reasons I cannot explain here, moving was easy. I made friends through work and local sports clubs. I started surfing, something I never would have tried in Houston. The first time I caught a real wave, I understood why people get addicted. There is something about reading the ocean, timing your movements, and feeling that push carrying you forward. It is the opposite of my previous life, where I was always fighting against the current. I met someone new after about 5 months. Her name is Claire. She is a marine biologist and works researching coral restoration on the Great Barrier Reef. We met at a beach cleanup event. We were both volunteering on a Saturday morning. We have been dating for 4 months. She knows about Brianna, but she does not obsess over it. She says everyone has a past, and what matters is who I am now. One night, I told her the whole story. She just shook her head and said, "Some people spend their whole lives chasing the next shiny thing without realizing what they already had." Then she asked if I wanted to go diving the next weekend. That is Claire. No drama, no judgments, just moving forward. My job situation also evolved very well. The Brisbane company offered me a permanent senior position with equity participation after 6 months. My income went up to about $180,000 US equivalent. Combined with my offshore investments and growing them strategically with a good financial advisor here, I am more than fine. I am much better than fine. Actually, my cost of living is lower. The stress disappeared and my bank account keeps growing. Claire and I moved in together recently. We found a beautiful place in Alexandra Headland with an ocean view from the balcony. Then, 3 weeks ago, I was coming back from work on a Friday afternoon. I pulled into the driveway and saw someone sitting on the steps of my house. At first, I thought it was a neighbor or maybe a delivery person. Then she stood up. It was Brianna. She looked bad. Her hair needed washing. Her clothes had seen better days. She was carrying a single backpack. She had lost weight, but not in a healthy way. Her face lit up when she saw me as if I were her salvation, and she started walking toward my car. I got out slowly, keeping my distance. "What are you doing here?" She smiled. That same manipulative smile I had seen 1,000 times. "I came to talk. We need to have a face-to-face conversation. We do not need anything. How did you find this address?" "I hired someone. It took me months and almost everything I had left." She took a step closer. "I sold everything. I took out a loan. I bought a one-way ticket. I am not leaving until we fix this." I stared at her. She had actually done it. She burned the few bridges she had left, gathered just enough money for an international flight, and showed up uninvited. The level of delusion was impressive. Before I could respond, Claire arrived in her car. She was coming from the research center and returning home for the weekend. She parked next to mine, got out, and assessed the situation. She immediately looked at Brianna, looked at me, then walked over to stand beside me and rested her hand on my arm. Brianna's face changed when she realized who Claire was. The smile vanished. "Is she your girlfriend?" "Yes." Her eyes turned cold. "She needs to go. We need privacy to talk about our marriage." Claire laughed. "Your marriage ended over a year ago. He is perfectly happy now." Brianna ignored her and looked back at me. "I made mistakes, but I have changed. Grant used me. I was vulnerable. I made bad decisions." Her voice cracked. "Everything I did was because our marriage had problems that you ignored. If you had paid more attention to my needs, I never would have strayed." I laughed. "So that is the story you are going to tell?" "I am saying we both contributed to what happened. Marriage is complicated, but I am here now, ready to fix things." She started crying. "I lost everything. My career, my house, my family's respect. You abandoned me when I needed you most. That is why I came to help you see that you made mistakes too. We can rebuild together." "Rebuild?" I almost laughed. "Do you think I need rebuilding? You cannot be happy living alone in a foreign country." She wiped her eyes. "I know you. You need someone. That is why I am here to help you." The absurd logic hit me. "I am great. Actually, you cannot be. Not without me." She reached out a hand as if to touch me. "I know you have the ring. My grandmother's ring. You stole it to hurt me. If you have any decency left, you will return it, and we will see how to move forward together." Claire stepped between us before she could answer. "You need to leave. This is harassment." He made it clear he wants no contact. Brianna exploded. She started screaming that Claire was a homewrecker. "You are just some random woman who does not understand what we had. He is my husband. We have history." She insulted her with words I will not repeat, raising the volume with every sentence. "He abandoned me, and now he is showing off someone new while I suffer for mistakes we both made. This is the life he destroyed." A neighbor came out of his house, an older man 2 houses down. "Everything okay over here, mate?" "No," I said. "We have an unwanted visitor who refuses to leave." Might have to call the police. Brianna realized she had messed up. She tried to backtrack, her voice suddenly softer. I am just emotional because I traveled so far. I just want to talk. You owe me at least a conversation after everything we have been through together. After all, I sacrificed for you. I looked at her standing there, playing the victim role once again, blaming everyone but herself. I do not owe you anything. You made your choices. Live with them. You are no longer my problem. Leave. I have nowhere to go. I spent everything to get here. You cannot just throw me out on the street. Look at me. The police arrived in less than 10 minutes. 2 officers. I explained the situation calmly. I showed them the divorce decree. I showed them the legal letters establishing the no-contact order and the LinkedIn message from Brianna where I clearly told her not to contact me. They asked Brianna for her version. She tried to play the victim again. She said I was her husband, that she just wanted to talk, that my girlfriend had verbally attacked her, that I had stolen her property, and that she had every right to be there. We are divorced, I said, keeping my voice calm. She has no legal relationship with me. I have made it clear through legal channels that I want no contact. She showed up at my house uninvited, refused to leave when asked, and caused a disturbance. The officers did not buy Brianna's story. One of them turned to her. Ma'am, you need to leave this property immediately. I cannot. I have nowhere to go. I spent everything I had to come here and fix what he broke. That is not our problem. If you do not leave voluntarily, we will have to arrest you for trespassing. Brianna refused to move and started crying again, saying she had nowhere to go, that she had spent it all to get here, and that this was her last chance to save her life. The officers tried to reason with her for a few minutes. She did not give in. Finally, one of them took me aside. Do you want to press charges for harassment and trespassing? I did not hesitate. Yes. They arrested Brianna on the spot. They put the handcuffs on her while she screamed that I was ruining her life. This is all your fault. You stole from me. You abandoned me. You destroyed everything. I just wanted to talk, and you are having me arrested like a criminal. You cannot do this to me. We are married. We have history. That means something. We were married, I replied. Past tense. Now you are just someone who does not take no for an answer. She kept screaming as they took her to the patrol car. She screamed about the ring, about how I had stolen her grandmother's heirloom, about how everything was my fault, and about how I had destroyed her life by abandoning her. The neighbor was watching and recording with his phone. Brianna put on a full show in front of witnesses. The officers took her away. One stayed to take my statement and give me a case number. He said Brianna would likely spend the night in custody and then appear before a magistrate, and that she could be deported to the United States depending on her visa status and the charges. Claire and I went into the house. She looked at me for a long moment. Are you okay? Yes, just surprised she actually went that far. The next day, I received a call from the local police station. Brianna had been charged with harassment and trespassing. She had been ordered to have no contact with me because she had entered Australia on a tourist visa and committed a crime. Immigration was involved. She was being held pending deportation proceedings. Brianna's parents called me that same afternoon. Her mother apologized profusely. She said they had warned Brianna not to do that they had refused to help her buy the ticket, that Brianna had sold her car, borrowed money from anyone willing to lend it, and gathered just enough for a one-way ticket with no plan for afterwards. They said they were ashamed and horrified by what she had done. 3 days later, Brianna was deported, put on a flight back to the United States with a ban on entering Australia for at least 3 years. Public records and mutual acquaintances showed that her parents had to pick her up at the airport in Houston, that she returned with nothing but her backpack and a criminal record. The last I heard through online searches and social media is that Brianna was living in an extended stay motel on the outskirts of Houston, working part-time at a fast food place. She is still in debt from the loan she took out for the ticket to Australia, still banned from entering an entire continent, still blaming everyone but herself for how her life ended up, and still telling anyone who would listen that I owed her money and that I stole her grandmother's ring. Meanwhile, I am here in Australia with Claire. We are planning to get engaged next year. My career is thriving, my investments are growing. I surf almost every morning, spend weekends exploring this amazing country, and live exactly the life I want. Brianna wanted half of everything I built. She got nothing but the consequences of her own actions. She lost her marriage, her lover, her career, her reputation, her family's support, her freedom to enter an entire continent, and even that ring she lied about for years. Grant lost his influencer career, his sponsors, and his reputation. He had to start from scratch in another state with nothing. I protected everything that mattered, built something better than what I had before, and never looked back. Brianna came back from her fake vacation expecting everything to stay the same. Instead, she found divorce papers and evidence of her year-long affair. I was already gone, living on another continent, completely out of her reach. She could not manipulate, she could not negotiate, and she could not cry her way out of it. Just cold reality and legal consequences. Then she flew around the world on a one-way ticket, thinking she could manipulate me one more time. Instead, she was arrested, deported, and proved to everyone that she had learned absolutely nothing. That is the perfect ending to her story. She bet everything on one last desperate play and lost completely. The ring is still in my drawer. One night, I showed it to Claire calmly and told her the whole story of how Brianna convinced everyone it was a family heirloom when I literally watched her open the jewelry box on our anniversary. Claire laughed and said that was a superior level of delusion. Then she asked me what I planned to do with it. I thought about it for a moment and said maybe one day I would sell it, donate it, or just keep it as a reminder of what happens when someone chooses lies over reality. Claire said any decision was fine with her. She said she did not need expensive jewelry to know I valued her. That is the difference. Claire does not need external validation or material proof. Brianna wanted everything without earning anything. She wanted the lifestyle, the status, the money, everything without contributing anything and cheating behind my back. She thought she was smart enough to have it all. She thought she could manipulate and escape the consequences. She was wrong, and now she lives in a motel. She works in fast food. She is banned from an entire continent, and everyone who ever cared about her finally sees who she really is. Comment. Sometimes the best response to betrayal isn't anger, but choosing to walk away and protect your peace. Real self-respect means recognizing when a situation no longer serves you and having the courage to start over. True victory isn't about watching someone else fail, but about building a life where you can genuinely thrive again. We often chase material things or status, yet what matters most is honesty and real connection. Surround yourself with people who value you for who you are, not for what you can provide. Our choices always have consequences, and taking responsibility for them is the first step toward maturity. Never be afraid to close a door that leads nowhere so you can open one that leads to happiness. Sometimes you have to leave everything behind to find the person you were always meant to be. A life filled with drama is exhausting, but a life built on integrity brings a quiet kind of strength. I hope this reminds you that no matter how much you've lost, you still have the power to rebuild something better. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.